Hello, thank you for joining me today for this short webinar to discuss enterprise risk management in the Microsoft platform with Power Framework Risk. Let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Gero Renker. I am co-founder of Program Framework, and we are a Microsoft partner. We've been implementing solutions for project portfolio and risk management since 2005 with full set of services. And our core solutions in this space are Power Framework PPM for enterprise project portfolio management and Power Framework Risk for enterprise risk management. And that is the solution I'm going to focus on today. And I'm going to spend maybe the next half an hour or so describing what this application can do and why we have created it and what the business benefits are. And this is a relatively new application that I'm personally very excited about because I really think it brings some new approaches to enterprise risk management. Should you have any questions that pop up in your head while we're going through this, you have the Q&A panel in front of you, and I have a colleague online here who will be answering questions as I go along. Also, we will follow up and send you an email with a link to a recording of this webinar so that you can replay it at your leisure or share it with colleagues. So why is risk management challenging to so many organizations? I think it's fair to say that for many organizations, risk management just isn't part of the culture. It's not a mature process. In fact, it's informal. It's disconnected, and there's often a challenge around the tools that are in use that are either risk applications that may be quite complex or unloved, badly adopted, maybe quite costly, or we use Excel risk logs, which maybe is the most common approach. Either case, risk data isn't really shared throughout the organization. It's a user community that's quite specialized. And really, as a result, we have a lack of good risk data to support decision making. There's a lack of ownership and accountability. And I would say organizations are failing to turn risk management into business benefit. And of course, good risk management can be a real benefit to the business because with good risk data, we can support strategic decision making because we can understand how risk affect strategic objectives. We have the power to improve operational efficiency by identifying and mitigating risks that impact processes and operations. So we're reducing the likelihood of disruptions, inefficiency, costly errors, and we contribute to overall operational excellence. Of course, good risk management helps to protect our reputation and brand. Then there's compliance and legal safeguards. Enterprise risk management ensures that the organization complies with laws, regulations, and industry standards, avoids legal issues, reputational damage, fines, and so on. And then ultimately, it's about strengthening resilience and adaptability. So preparing for and responding to unexpected events. We're fostering a culture to navigate uncertainties and capitalize on opportunities that arise as well. So really important points, benefits delivered to our organization through good risk management, and a good risk management tool is essential to make this happen without a doubt. And with Power Framework Risk, I am going to show you such a tool with very rich features across risk identification, assessment, risk treatment, and escalation, governance, and rich reporting. And I'm going to be showing you most of these feature items in my demo. But what really distinguishes this application from others is the fact that it is built and deployed in the Microsoft platform, the platform you already own. I'm going to briefly go through the tools and services that are relevant here. It's built with Power Apps, and this is a low-code application development platform, meaning that any customizations, any changes that you would need to the application in the future are affordable, can be rapidly applied, and this tremendous flexibility in the way that the solution can be configured. Reporting is through Power BI, world-class Microsoft reporting that I'm sure you're familiar with, and this really enables your own report writers as well to create custom reports. Power Automate is in use here for automation and integration with hundreds of connectors to databases and solutions and cloud services. And integration is a key design consideration for Power Framework with this I'm going to show you. Data is stored in Dataverse. This is the database of the Power Platform. These are all services in the Power Platform. So the data is stored in your own Microsoft Cloud. It's not hosted by us. And we also have the ability to play with Power Virtual Agents for chatbots and all sorts of artificial intelligence services. Makes it a very future-proof platform. And collectively, you might say that this is a toolbox for digital transformation that we have applied here to solve the challenges of enterprise risk management. And because we are in the Microsoft ecosystem where your users already work, where they log into in the morning, we can connect to all sorts of other tools that they're already familiar with. We can embed all this into Microsoft Teams. We can connect to SharePoint to connect to documents and attach those to risk. We can bring in work management tools and task management and whatever else is available in the Microsoft platform. And that's a game changer for risk management. So let's jump right into our application. Here we are looking at a register of all active risks that exist in my organization. And in this view, we see just a small subset of data columns that exist, and we can edit this view and move columns around and add columns to them and so on. We can also create our own personal views that are then stored. And the data columns that we see here are entirely configurable. So we provide a very rich information template with the solution, and then that is configured so data can be added or modified as necessary for your organization. It's also important to understand that we have very powerful role-based security rules that give us the opportunity to limit the view to certain users so they can only access a particular set of risks that maybe are relevant to their business unit, and we can define exactly what they can edit and see within those risks. So I can go and, for example, now group my risks here by current risk stage, and instantly you can see that my risks go through processing stages. So in my case, they're being identified, then go into assessment, and finally monitoring. And again, these stages can be modified, renamed, configured, and so on. I'm going to change the view and take us to active strategic risks. Now, there's a difference between strategic and operational risks within this application. So strategic risks are the big ticket items that are being monitored by the senior leadership team. They are owned by different business units in my business. And these business units will also then raise operational risk and relate them to strategic risks. Let's illustrate that by looking at an executive dashboard published through Power BI here in the solution. So here are my strategic risks all listed, but this time grouped by risk category. Categories can be configured in the solution. And for example, we have our operational and service quality category. And here's an infrastructure risk. That's the strategic risk. And we can see here a quick view of 4 operational risks that have been raised in the business against this strategic risk. Now, wherever I am, I can, of course, filter my risk by the business unit that owns them. And let's have a quick look where they are configured. So here's a table of business units, and I'm going to pick my IT department here. And you can see this hierarchical view, various departments feeding into the finance directorate. The finance directorate is a number of directorates that we have in the business that then jointly feed into the corporate root, as it were. And at every level, we have a senior risk owner, which is an important concept for risk escalation and so on. And so we can jump from here into, let's say, the IT department and see the risks that are managed by the IT department. And as I said before, we can set up security roles so that maybe individual users in the IT department can only see risks that are owned by their own department. An alternative way of giving our business units access to this application is through Microsoft Teams. And here's an example where we have created a team for risk management in the finance directorate, which has individual channels for the departmental risk registers below it. And we can see here the risk dashboard being published to everyone. We have at the directorate level files, maybe strategy documents and so on. And then we can drop into an individual department where we see risk-related chats going on in Microsoft Teams, and the application is embedded right here. And that may just be helpful for adoption for organizations that tend to do all their work in Microsoft Teams. So why don't we create a brand new risk now for our IT department? And we're going to do this by clicking New Enterprise Risk. Let's make this slightly bigger. And here we are. This is the screen that has risk information for me to fill in. You can see at the top here the stages of my risk lifecycle. I'm, of course, here at the very beginning in the identify stage. And I am just going to pick up a risk title that I created earlier and paste it in. So I'm going to say my risk is called Risk of New Northern Hub Infrastructure Being Delivered Late. So there is a project underway that may not deliver things on time. This is an operational risk. And I'm going to call this a standard risk. And importantly, I'm going to assign a risk categorization. And it's going to ultimately impact operational or service quality. And we are also going to identify a strategic objective that is going to be impacted by this, maybe technology, innovation, and all of that, of course, is for ultimately for reporting. Now, I'm being prompted to define my risk summary in a particular best practice format. So that's something we can do. And again, let me just paste something in here. So if the Northern Hub infrastructure is delivered late, then new service cannot be switched on, resulting in continued slow performance of core systems and so on. More detailed descriptions that I can put in here. I can also put together a high-level narrative as guidance for a mitigation plan, although I can also put together a list of detailed mitigation tasks and track them, as we will see later. For now, let's just decide whether this is a threat or opportunity. It is a threat. If it was an opportunity, I would have different treatment options. So for a threat, I get these. These are the classic ones. I'm going to treat this by mitigating it. Some other categorizations to drive reporting. It's not a legal or regulatory compliance impact risk. I can say whether risk assessments in future should require approval by someone else, in which case, as you can imagine, a workflow will take place in any risk assessment that's being created, and there will be multiple would need approval. I'm going to leave that a no. Is this going to cost us money? Yeah, let's put a number on it. um, how soon is this going to hit us? What sort of service quality exposure would we apply? So those are all categorizations. And keep in mind, everything I'm doing here is absolutely customizable. Now, how often should this risk be assessed? Let's say every 30 days. And with that, let's just save this. Now, as I save it, what happens is that a unique identifier is assigned here. And I want to now move this risk to the next stage because I am ready to assess it. Let's do that. And let me point out that the ability to progress a risk through its stages is security controlled. So we could absolutely limit that to certain types of users or make that part of an approval workflow. Okay, if I now click refresh, we will find new tabs showing up at the top. So I'm now seeing my assessment tab as well as related records, which we're going to come to in a minute. So let's do an assessment. So assessments live here, and I'm going to show you right at the bottom, this is where they're going to be listed, and I'm going to click the plus button here to create a brand new assessment. And it knows that this is the very first one. It's going to call this an inherent assessment. And I'm just going to backdate this to last month. And I'm going to get the typical likelihood and consequence ratings that I'm going to fill in. And with that, the system is going to work out the risk rating. So it's obviously a score of 9 because these are values 3 and 3. 3 times 3 is 9, which is considered high. And that is based on configuration at the risk category level. So let me close this and show you how that works. So first of all, one thing to point out, I'm going to be building up a graph here of repeated risk assessments, which is going to point into a direction either up or down. Of course, I want it to go down. So here's the very first assessment point showing. And the values from that initial assessment, my inherent assessment, have been rolled up to the risk. So that risk is now considered a rating of high, which is within appetite. So I'm going to take you to the risk category that we have assigned, which controls that. So the risk category itself has a number of things going. So here's, for example, a grid that allows me to put the ratings against the scores. Likelihood by consequence, it's a 5 by 5 grid, and I can say whether a resulting value is considered high, very high, extreme, moderate, and low, and I can change this for different risk categories. We had 3 by 3, which resulted in high. There are other values here that then control risk appetite, together with a risk appetite statement for this risk category. And you can see here an individual threshold of 10 pushes this to beyond the within appetite, and 15 will say exceeds tolerance. So a 9 is below 10, and therefore our risk is still rated within appetite here in the top right. Some other things I can do is to consider the risk controls that I feel are relevant for this project. And risk controls are, of course, operational processes, systems, policies, or procedures designed to reduce risk. And I have a bunch of risk controls already defined in my system. So I'm going to add relevant risk controls to this risk. So you can see here, there's a whole bunch of them. And regular project steering group meetings are certainly relevant to this risk when it comes to mitigating a delay to a project. And if I just open up this particular control to see how that is defined, so this is the table that allows me to manage risk controls, to describe them, describe the dependencies, and risk controls themselves are subject to regular assessments. So you can see this risk control has been reviewed by someone in my organization and has been deemed appropriate, and control effectiveness is rated as full. In future, of course, I'll be able to look at all risks that have been associated with this particular control, and that gives me a lot of visibility and clarity in terms of how my risk controls are impacting successful risk mitigation. Another area of important information for our risk lives here in the Related Records tab. Here we see various relationships that we can define to give context to our risk, to connect it to data that lives elsewhere in our organization in other systems, and ultimately help us understand risk and manage risk in a much better way. For example, I could say that this risk is related to a vendor. We're working with many suppliers. We have here a bit of infrastructure being delivered late. That could be a key supplier that we need to relate this to. I can go to an advanced lookup window here. So we have a supplier table, only 2 suppliers here in my demo system, but these suppliers could actually be picked up from an external system, maybe your financial accounting system, and rather than entering this here and maintaining a list here in the risk application itself, this data would be harvested from your financial accounts, and ABC contractors are therefore available here with their information, and I can pick them and relate the risk to them. And instantly, if I was to click on ABC contractors now, you can see the information that might come in from our finance system through a connector, through integration and automation. And I'll be able to see the risks that have been related to this vendor account from different places. And instantly, I get a function of vendor risk management that falls out of this. That visibility of being able to tag risk against vendors drives a whole lot of benefit. The same is true with projects. So I might say, yes, this is related to a particular project that is running. And we can search for projects. And again, we have integration with our PPM system. In this case, this happens to be Power Framework PPM. And we can see a list of projects. And here is that project that is delivering this particular piece of infrastructure. And I could actually click on this now and jump to that project in our PPM solution. This is Power Framework PPM. And for this project, there is a risk log. So there are some potentially a detailed risk captured for this project. That's how the project maintains its risk. But we are now looking at the risk to the business that is arising from this project potentially running late. So let me jump back, and of course, another relationship that we want to create that is only available here because we have declared that this current risk that we're working on is an operational risk, is to say that we are relating this to a strategic risk. And again, I can search the strategic risks that I've defined to build that relationship. And I might say this relates to well, let's do this as an infrastructure risk. That's my strategic risk, and let's build that relationship as well. So as I said, all of this serves reporting and really learning deeper lessons in terms of the risks that our business is grappling with. Now, having done all this, I am now going to progress this risk to the next stage. And you can see here, I must have an inherent risk assessment on file before I progress this. So let's do this now. I get to the monitoring stage, and when I click refresh, even more content is now available that is relevant to the monitoring stage of a risk. For example, I could start to pull together a list of issues that are already occurring in the business associated with this risk, or I can put some task against this risk. So, for example, mitigation task. Let's quickly do that. So, a mitigation task would be talk to the supplier. And I'm going to assign myself to that, and I'm going to put a date against that, and that due date control will again drive a report. It will mark this task as overdue, and we could link notifications to this and whatever else. So what I should be doing now is create a residual risk assessment. So I'm reassessing this risk maybe 30 days later or something like that. So again, I'm going in here, and again, that could be automated. Assessment tasks could be created through automation every 30 days. So we know that this assessment is outstanding, and we put a date against that, and we're going to say the likelihood is now maybe this is likely, and the impact would be major. And as we're saving this now, this is now very high. The rating is score is 16. As we close this, you can see uh, this risk really has gone up. And if I now refresh this, that's been rolled up to the overall status of this risk, which now exceeds tolerance. To do justice to that, I might now choose to escalate this risk and do that with a approval process that I could kick off. That's happening in this tab. I could raise a new request for approval for escalation. The system understands, of course, that I, in the IT department, report to the finance directorate, and the serious risk owner there happens to be myself as well in this demo system. So I would create an approval process for myself and approve that escalation, whereupon this risk would show up on the risk register of the finance directorate. I'm not going to do that because I really want to focus on reporting. Otherwise, we'll be running out of time. So I showed you previously reports being deployed here in Teams. And let's first of all look at strategic risk right here. Now we entered a new risk, if you remember, against the strategic risk of infrastructure, and hovering over that, that's now gone on to a list of 5 active operational risks that relate to it, and our northern hub risk is there. And wherever you see this little symbol, that will allow us to jump into that full detail of that particular risk. My related risk tab allows me to monitor relationships. So I've tagged a number of risks against ABC contractors here in the top right. So I can click on that, and that applies a filter, and only those risks that are impacted by ABC contractors are showing here. Equally, my hub upgrade project now shows up as a project driving business risk. So I can apply that as a filter and so on. And risks can have any other relationship that you want to configure in your system, should you choose to deploy this. And we can bring in data that's entirely personal to you. Some organizations want to link risks to asset registers, to products, to buildings, you name it. So we most likely can connect to a line of business system that has that information. We can bring it in here so you can create these relationships so that you can understand how risk relates to data that is meaningful to you. Let's look at assessment monitoring. This governs the frequency of assessment. So you can see here my risks are defined with the numbers of days that define the frequency. And we have a red, amber, green status here where we are below or above this. And we can see here days since the last assessment. So we can instantly identify risks that are not being looked after, as it were, by people in the business and that are overdue for assessment. And this is quite cool here, this little assessment spark line that gives me an instant view of the trend. Here's our Northern Hub infrastructure risk. So that's represented here. I can instantly see when that was last assessed, and the trend is obviously going upwards, or a negative development against this particular risk. Risk category reporting then is an example of looking at all the risk collected against a particular category and in aggregate deciding whether that category is in trouble overall. And that's the case with my operational service quality risk. Collectively, they are, present a collective risk that exceeds our aggregated risk tolerance. We said that should be level of 100. Adding up all the risk scores of risk attached to this category gives us 153, makes this red. Other risk categories, you can see the aggregate values are in the green area. And so we can monitor this. And you could equally aggregate risk scores by business unit, or to give us an instant view where things exceed our appetite collectively as an aggregate. And then I want to look at snapshot history. So this is another very useful process, the ability for the system to save snapshots, fully automated, maybe once a month or once a week, up to you, and reporting on trends. So you can see the number of active risks has gone up over time, and we can see how they are divided against different risk appetite rags. We can see the cost exposure has gone up, and over here on the right, the trend is broken down into different owning business units and so on. There's clearly a lot more analytics you can drive from this. All these reports that I'm showing you here are mere examples. Final one to look at is open tasks. I might say, hey, just show me mitigation tasks in the system, sort those by days overdue. I could easily put a filter on here to just show me overdue task. This link takes me into the task record for full detail. And as I said already, probably, we can send out notifications to task owners to do their job on time. All that is possible. A final point about reporting is the way we enable your own report authors to create their reports ad hoc. And that is by providing this Power BI data model that has all the different data sources, different files. Here's my risk register with all of the data columns named in a user-friendly fashion. So I could very quickly build a risk list here by populating that with the risk name and the risk level and the risk category, and put something colorful on there like the risk reg. And with that, I could put other visuals on the canvas and start populating those, and they will cross filter and so on. So this is how your own data analysts would be able to consume the data, create reports. They can equally export the data to Excel, and so on. So hugely valuable asset that comes with the application. I'm going to leave it there then in terms of the functional demo. I hope that's been enough to give you an impression of the application. There are plenty of other features that I haven't had time to demo, and you're very welcome to get in touch to find out more and get your own personal walkthrough. I would just want to point out something to all of you good people, particularly working in the public sector, and you may well be aware of the Orange Book, HMRC's principles and concepts recommended to organizations in the public sector, which has been very much a guidance for the design of this application. The 5 principles in terms of governance and leadership being the first one, which we address through this highly configurable system that is set up to specific needs with clear role assignments, organizational hierarchy and escalation workflows. Integration is another principle. It shall be an integral part of all organizational activities. And that is certainly the case here with a single solution shared across functions, providing visibility and control. And I think I made the point of how we can relate this and integrate this with data that is relevant to the organization in a very personalized way. Collaboration, best information, another key principle with a single source of truth data source that drives visibility for all, supporting decision making, and the collaboration here through Microsoft cloud tooling, I think is extremely powerful. Risk management processes, procedures and practices that obviously require a level of maturity, which the system can drive by reflecting process agreements and automating them as much as possible, and so on. And finally, the Orange Book recommends a principle of continual improvement. And I think an enterprise system such as ours, such as Power Framework Risk, really provides that platform for continuous improvement, because you can absolutely implement the system in a simple fashion and then grow and enhance and improve over time. So if I was to sum up the benefits that we are looking to provide with this application, uh, it is of course building a risk-aware culture by involving more people in the process, letting people own risks in their business units, letting people see uh, risk information across the organization, which will drive better decision making. And with that, all the potential benefits that I outlined at the outset, with increased compliance, better operational effectiveness. Of course, we want to avoid catastrophic events. All of those things we have certainly here as tangible benefits delivered through the solution and the associated processes that you can implement in your organization. One point as well, where is this all going? We are certainly not finished in terms of adding capability into this application. We are currently building an artificial intelligence assistant, which we are really excited about. So AI is going to suggest mitigation tasks, for example, and help in all sorts of ways. It's a big topic for risk management. Not quite there yet to roll it into this webinar. We are going to be able to show you a lot more in the beginning of the new year. Other potential here is, for example, to build web interfaces for external parties, because again, it's part of the technology Power Pages, it's called. So we can easily build a web presence that will display risk information, asking external parties to collaborate and so on. We have plenty of other plans for further innovation in this application. But this is where we come to an end. Thank you for your time. Just a pointer here to a couple of websites of ours to give you the opportunity to find out more. By all means, please do get in touch if you would like a personal demo and discuss with us how this solution might be deployed for you. For now, thanks for your attendance, for your interest, and we'll talk to you soon.